Hey everyone, it's been a little while since my last update. It's been a busy couple weeks. It's September 21st today, so it's probably been 2 or 3 weeks now. But either way, I have some time. I'm in a hotel by myself, so I figured I'd get some things off my mind. And so, really, this video is about something that I think is extremely important. Uh, it's an important part of everybody's life, whether they know it or not. And that's taking risks. And like I said, whether they know it or not, every day we take risks. We make decisions, big and small, and each of those has an implied risk in them. Now, I'm not talking about small things. I'm talking really about the risks we take financially, because those are more directed towards my channel. My channel is dedicated to my journey going from an employee to an entrepreneur to a business owner to an employer. And so most of my conversations are centered around money, centered around finance, centered around economics. And so I want to talk about those types of risks. And those are the types of risks that I think we are lacking in as a society. I think most people take risks, but they take risks in other areas of their life and consider their financial well-being as more maybe conservative than other things. And so um, there are people that have had bad luck taking risks and vowed to, not do those things again, vowed to be conservative in life, vowed to see opportunity but ignore it. And there are people that have gotten very good at taking risks. There are people that take risks without any thought. And in my opinion, that's really gambling. There is a lot of people that gamble, especially lately with how people are hurting financially. The path of least resistance for them is to gamble their money, but really that's not the right kind of risk, because the right kind of risk is an educated risk. And if you were educated, you would know that a casino makes money. That means that inherently the odds are against you, or else they wouldn't be in business. So gambling in itself is a risk, but not a very well thought out one. And so that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about really is we all have skills, we all have experiences in our life, we all work within an industry, right? Each one of us has a part to play in a company, in an industry. And so as you work through that industry, as you spend time in that industry, you gather experience and you gather knowledge. And if you're paying attention, you can start to understand what's valuable in that industry, right? For instance, if you're working in manufacturing, which I am, and you're in a specific industry, let's say you're working in plastics, you're working in injection molding. The more time you spend around that type of equipment, that type of operation, that type of manufacturing, the more you're likely to understand what's valuable to that type of operation. And that means you might be able to spot value somewhere else that can be applied to that industry, right? So you might be able to, you might be at some warehouse for something completely different, and you spot this piece of equipment that you happen to know is useful in injection molding. And that takes knowledge, right? It takes experience to know that. That's an educated type of thing. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about educated risks, because you want to take risks in life. whether you know it or not, you're always taking risks. You're choosing to drive a car every day. That's a lot riskier than flying. You're choosing to eat this food versus that food, which is, riskier for your health. So we make decisions every day that are risky, but we don't think about them. We tend to think about them more financially. But you can't always get your health back, but you can usually get your finances back. So maybe we have to reconsider how we take risks, right? Maybe we're not thinking about them the right way. And so I want to encourage anyone out there who is considering how they can make extra money. I see a lot of things on Reddit or other forums where people ask, how can I make money quickly? Well, if they're asking that question to a bunch of random people in a forum, they didn't spend enough time thinking about it. Because if they did, they should have been able to find that answer within themselves. We each have skills, we each have experiences that are valuable to somebody. How much money do you want to make? Well, you need to have a skill, right? You need to have some experience, some ability to bring value in one way or another. And so, we get paid for the value we bring. So if you happen to know more about one thing than everybody else does, you're going to get paid more to share it or to distribute it. So educated risks are important, and they can enable you to get an edge in life. And I want to give you an example because I recently tried something new. So my business is primarily service-based. I trade my time for money, and it's on a time and material basis or project basis. So I only have so many hours in a week, right? That's 20 working days in a month. I'm working, at least 8 hours a day. So how much time do I have besides service? Not much, right? If I wanted to make extra money outside of myself, I need to find something that isn't trading my time for money. So these are all the things I'm thinking about because I am considering my time and considering what I can get out of it. And so I thought, well, I do know what's valuable to these customers I have. Obviously, I'm solving their problems. That's valuable. But I mean on a basic level, I know in their operations what they value. I know their weak points because I spend a lot of time in their arena. I've seen where loss can happen in a business because I've spent time in that kind of business, right? It's like when you're working at an employer and you have a machine that you're running. Maybe you're an operator, right? Maybe you're an operator and you're running a machine every day. And you know that if something goes wrong with that machine, you got to call somebody. It's going to take 3 weeks. And to you, that might seem like a vacation, but to your employer, it's a nightmare because that's 3 weeks without making any money. So in that process, there's a weak point. There's a reason why they can't solve that problem faster, whether they don't have the right people or the people they do have don't have the right skills. There's some reason why they can't solve that problem. And so these are the kinds of things you can pick up on, and I've picked up on them in my own industry. And so based on that knowledge, I'm able to spot value. And so I thought I'd look for things I could bring to a company and try to sell it. I don't need to spend my time at the place to make money if I'm over here at home on my phone, searching some website or some distributor and looking for equipment that I know is valuable for, a customer. I don't have to trade my time for money necessarily in the same way, but I can still make money. In fact, I can make money a little bit easier because if I happen to have a need first and then I find it, well, then it's a sure sale. But what if I'm just looking first and I got to find somebody that wants it, right? So there's different ways to approach it. But the point is, I wanted to try something new. And so I did a little experiment, I took a risk. I thought, you know what? I've worked around enough shipping that I could probably pick something up myself. I could probably find an item, go pick it up, transport it to the person that wants it, and sell the item. So that was the risk. My education was, I've worked around heavy equipment before. I know how to handle it with a forklift and straps and all these things. And I've worked around transportation. So I figured, I'm risking a little bit by doing this. But ultimately, I know the person wants it. I know how much I'm buying it for and what I could sell it for. And it's in demand. So let's take a risk. So I decided to try this. And in my mind, I had a number I'd make, right? Essentially, I was getting the unit for free because it's so specialized. I'm working with no competition. Nobody else wants it because they don't know what it is or they don't know what it could be used for. So I took a risk. I picked this thing up. I drove it a few hours to a customer's site. I dropped it off. In my mind, I had an idea of what I'd make. Well, when I arrived, I realized I didn't strap it well enough. Something didn't go right, and the unit had shifted in the truck. This isn't in a box truck, so it had shifted in the box truck. I was driving pretty carefully, I thought, but I must not have been careful enough. But either way, something happened where it slightly damaged the equipment, and I didn't know it until I dropped it off. I opened up the door. I was with the owner, and I opened up the door, and there's a very obvious problem. And I knew something was wrong. I figured out what it was, but, I thought, that sucks. I delivered a bad product. I made a promise, and I failed, right? Well, did I really fail? I don't think so, because I delivered the product. It wasn't because of the damage. It wasn't functioning. I couldn't function it. It wasn't functioning anymore. I couldn't run it. So that doesn't change its value. It just means that I'm going to lose out on money, right? I'm going to have to fix it, and then I'll get whatever's left over. And so that's what happened. So I think for that piece of equipment, I had hoped to make $4,000 doing that transport. Well, with the damages and a day's labor to fix it, I might make $2,000. I might make half of what I thought I'd make, which for, half a day's work, that's pretty good, right? But the point is, it's on the hairy edge of my comfort level. I wasn't sure I could do it. I was sure, but I wasn't absolutely sure, because I would have strapped it right? I would have done it perfectly if I knew I could absolutely do it. But I must have missed a detail, and that cost me money. But thankfully, it didn't cost me all the money of the whole deal. So I still made out a little bit. And so that's my point, is that you miss all the opportunities you don't take. So even though this was not my primary job, I'm not a transporter of goods, I'm not a trucker, I'm not a broker. I tried to be, and I learned some things. I will always overcompensate on the travel from now on. But most importantly, I was willing to take that risk. And so I want to encourage you to think about that. I want to encourage you to consider how you can bring value in different ways in your life. And never stop doing that, because things are always changing. And if you're alive, awake, alert, enthusiastic, you'll see them. And it's not just about seeing them, though. It's about being willing to take a risk, being willing to try something new, even though you might fail. And so, since that experience of mine, I've taken a little bit of a lesson from it, but I've applied it into other things. So now I've carried that off into a couple different transactions now, over the past couple weeks. And so now I'm more educated, right? Now I knew something going into it, but I know a lot more now after having done it, trying to do it, right? So I'm more prepared for the next one, and I'm more prepared for the next one. And so it's kind of a compounding effect there. So we don't want to be stuck in life. We want to be, as employees or business owners, right? If you're an employee, you don't want to be, do you really want to be doing the same thing forever? I mean, literally. Could you imagine 30 years of your life, you just go to work, do the same thing, and collect a paycheck and go home? I know there are people that do that. I'm not saying they're wrong, but what kind of life are you living, right? You want to be challenging yourself. And so you can take big risks and small risks, but don't be afraid to take risks. Make educated decisions. Investigate what you're doing before you do it. Reach out for help. Ask somebody. One of the best ways to prepare for something like this, taking a risk, is to find somebody that's already doing it, right? So maybe you want to get into some program. You want to get another degree or something. You want to get more educated for this other job you want, but you're not qualified for it because you don't have the certification or something. But you know somebody that went through it. And so you're contemplating it, wondering, is it worth this money I'm about to spend? Well, why don't you talk to them about it and see how it panned out for them? Maybe find more than one person, but talking to people that have already done something is a great way to light the way for you and your decision making. And that goes for the good and the bad. Looking at other people and the decisions they make is a great way to realize what you shouldn't do. So if you're taking risks and you've seen other people fail in this direction and that direction, don't do those things. But why should they stop you from taking risks? And normalcy bias tells you that however something is now is how it will always be. So don't fall into the trap of, oh, I failed the last 3 times. I'm not going to try. Thomas Edison failed 100 times to make a light bulb or so. But it only took once, right? He figured out how not to make a light bulb work. And so that's the kind of mentality you want to have. You want to have that winner's mentality, not a loser's mentality. You want to have a winner's mentality of, it's okay to not know. It's okay to have, first of all, it's okay to want something better. And it's okay to not be prepared for that. You're going to have to go through a process to become prepared for it, to become educated for it, to become ready for it. And so all of that is good. What's not good is staying the same. What's not good is atrophy. What's not good is a slow burn. I mean, who wants to stay in the same job for 30 years? That, in my mind, is a slow burn. That's just my opinion. But I don't know. Everybody has their own wants and desires and everything. But this is just a video to hopefully motivate somebody to consider their life. Consider how they're living it. Are you taking any risks in your life? Do you know of any risks you can take? Are you afraid to take risks, and why? I mean, a lot of times you got to realize the reason for what you feel. Is there a reason why you feel that way? Is there a reason why you're afraid to take a risk? So it's an important part of success. No entrepreneur became successful without taking a risk. They had to risk everything almost to build a business, right? They have no idea starting it if it's going to be a success. I mean, they have a hunch. They have an educated guess. They have a hope, but truly they don't know. They are leaving it up to, fortune. They're just trying to assess the situation and say, is this probable? I think it is, and they're going to go for it. They're not going to wither away worrying about if they're going to fail or not. They probably already in the back of their mind know they already could fail. They already know they could fail. But they've accepted that, and that's where you need to be. You need to be at a point of accepting that, yeah, not everything's going to work out. That's okay. But don't let that stop you from taking a risk, because it's important. It's a great way to grow. It's a great way to learn. And it's a great way to get something that you want. It's a great way to make money. It's a great way to get ahead. And that's what we need right now. We need to find ways to be getting ahead. In everybody's life, they've got ways they could potentially get ahead, even if you feel like you're stuck. And so step one is to think about your situation and how you might be able to change it. And so that's all for today. I got an early morning at a customer site, so I'm going to get going. But otherwise, don't be afraid to take risks, and consider and investigate, learn, prepare before you do. Thanks. Have a good night.